Okay, so let's go ahead and get this going. Let's start by creating a basic room. That way I can test my build. It's just too complex to do it otherwise. So this is the idea. Go ahead and build a basic room so I can get this programming right for this fire.
When you rock and rollers, you can perform for 1,000 people and you can't be.
This doesn't really matter. None of the physics really matter. It's just for a visual. So let's go ahead and pick that. Let's call this 5. Copy these. And actually, let's make these smaller. The width too wide. So what I'm building out here is going to be air for these rooms. I created a backdraft function the other day, and then I started thinking it'd be nice if it was more complex. I want to make it so that the people in the rooms that need to be saved, they actually will pass out if the fire has evacuated all of the air in the room. So the way to do that is basically make it. And I didn't want to. I tried doing it in the level I already had, but that was just too complex. It wasn't working. Too many factors involved at once. So this should represent the rooms. So I'm going to go ahead and just put the fire in a couple places. It doesn't really matter how many are here. It's just so you can see what's happening. And then let's put the player over here. Okay. And then here's the real trick. Why doesn't it have its mesh though? I don't know. You know what? Probably made this not visible. Yeah. There we go. Alright, so this is the box that represents the air in the room. I called it room air. Super creative, I know. Let's make it slightly smaller. Needs to touch the edges though. So what's going on is the current setup is whatever's told. I guess it doesn't really need to touch the edges, but I just think it's good practice to fill the room. So these two boxes represent the air in the room. And they're actually programmed to represent different volumes of air, but that's okay. I'll keep them the same for now. So what I'll do is copy this scale. I created these variables here so that way it can create a scale, and the reason for that is because it's getting the fires that it's overlapping in real time. So let's go ahead and open it up here. So these fire actors consume a certain amount of air per second, and these rooms represent the amount of air in there. So what I have here is basically a collision detection, and it overlaps fireboxes and adds them to a array. So at the beginning it goes down to 0 size, and after 1/10 of a second it goes up to this preset room scale which I entered, and by doing so it collides and with these fireboxes it decides that they're in the array. Then we have this max room air, how much air is actually in the room, and I got the room scale, and I was doing by a square, but it was really just just too much cubic feet. It wasn't necessary, so I just multiplied the X and Y by 10, and that's the max air in the room. Then it sets the current air in the room. And then on an event tick, which is actually set to every 1 second, not all the time, just every 1 second, it checks the amount of air in the room. Is the air on fill-up condition? No. Then is there an active fire in there? Yes. If these conditions are true, then it will go ahead and start destroying the air in the room. And when the air reaches a low O2 percentage, it sends a code to the fire to switch parameters for the fire, so that the fire goes to an effect that lets you know that it is still burning but is not full flame. And it's to give you a clue that if you open that door, backdraft will happen. So I can actually, let's save this and let's go over to the test map, the original map. So I have this door here. I don't think it actually matters anymore on this, but we'll attach it that way. So this is just pretend. So what should happen is, oh, you know what? I did change some stuff. So there we go. So there's the cubic amount of air in here. And this fire should burn out in a moment. When it gets to about half, there we go. See, it switched to this other state here where it's not blazing. But you still see all the effects. So when we open the door, what should happen is the door will trigger the air. There we go. Goes to full blaze again. So what I started thinking was, all right, well, what if you open this door, but it's supposed to be this room gets air, but this room, let's say it has no air. So that shouldn't backdraft in here because that doesn't make sense. However, if you leave the front door open and the main room has air, then you open this side door, then it can get air again and the backdraft can happen. But it's super complex, I felt, to try to test all of those at once. So that's why I made this. This room will just test the fire. So let's see what we get here. Apparently I built the camera the other direction. Okay, let's turn everything around. Let's go over here. Let's rotate. There we go. Okay, let's try that again. There. Alright, let's open the door. There's not many fires in here, so this is going to evacuate very slowly. What I should do is I'm going to turn up the amount that the fire takes from the room. So let's go ahead and change that to like 10 times. Let's change it like 20 times. I want it to run out of air fast. That's gonna be not enough. Let's go 50 times. And you know what? These walls don't need to be so tall. Go and make them like 1.5 just for the visual. Okay, because the walls are not real. There we go. Now, oops, see, there we go. Now it's in the low mode. And when I open this door, oh, you know what? Forgot to do one thing. These doors have to be tied to an air box. So let's tie it to there. Now that should work. On the doors I made an exposed variable so I can click on whatever air boxes I want, make it exposed. So there we go, they've reignited. This one's still dead. Okay, so airbox links to that one. And what my theory is while I build it is I'm always going to create a path where I know that this door is the main door and it is the primary door to enter air. So this door doesn't link to this airbox, because if you're inside the room already and you open this door, that doesn't really make a difference. But what I am working on is shared air. So I made another exposed variable for the air boxes so they can see each other. So the idea here is that if this room has 100 air, let's say, and this room has 50 air, and you open this middle door, they'll balance to, what is that, 75-75? That's the idea. Now, let's say you have this front door open, this room is at 100 because the front door is open, and this room's at 50. You open the middle door, well, now it will try to balance to 75-75, but since this front door is open, it will continue to balance. And eventually they'll both be up to 100, theoretically, minus the air. So that's what I'm attempting to work on here. This is where it got really confusing. So I'm just making it up as I go along. Hopefully it's good. Let's see here. I have air, fill up. Alright, so the air is on fill up mode. And there's the backdraft action. There's the set. I haven't really figured out how I'm going to do this yet. But what I think will happen is the room air. I think I have some code in the doors that affect the room air. So yeah, here we go. So the door opens and it loops through the air boxes that it's been told about. So this should fill with air. Now this over here inside the room is going to, is it on fill with air? Yes. Is the room air less than the max room air, which is what's set at the beginning based on volume? If it is, then go ahead and loop through the shared air, which those were the exposed values, and check to see if the room air in each one of these is greater than the current room air. So it compares this room air with the other room airs. If it is greater, then what it'll do is take this box's air and subtract 1 from the other air and add 1 to this. And it'll do that for each room. So let's say you have 3 doors open, it'll do that for all 3. So that's the theory. I don't know if it'll work. Let's see what happens. Let's see, they're both set to each other. Yes, yes, and the door is set to that one, so it should be fine. Let's go ahead and let that run out. Okay, I open that, and the fires come back. What doesn't make sense here is that this air, 902, 802, it's removing from both. Oh, well, yeah, because both fires are going up. Alright, so let's open the door. And this should change now. This should be going up. But airbox 1 is not going up. Why isn't that going up? I definitely have this working to a single extent. Let's see why it's not working in double. Alright, so let's get rid of the others. Let's see here. How do I want this to happen? How do I want this to happen? Oh, you know what? Let's go ahead for now. Let's deactivate this one. I'll just cut it. Yes, let's cut it for now. That way it only shows my 1. I only have to deal with 1 for a second. Alright, so the air is out at about half, 402.5. Comes back open. It should be filling the air with more, which I know was working. Why isn't it working now? Must be because I did something over here. I was messing with this stuff and I think I broke something. Of course. Getting the room air amount. Minus that. Oh, you know what? Maybe I can't fill it fast enough? No, that doesn't make sense. It could be. It could be that it's not filling it fast enough because of what I did here. Fill with air. Let's go ahead and... Oh, you know what? It's not filling because it's getting nothing. It's checking these. That's what I changed and destroyed. So what it's doing is trying to get air from the other room, but the other room doesn't have more air, so it can't. Well, so there's 2 ways I could do this. I could put an air box on the outside to represent outside air, or I could put a set number here. Let's see here. I think I should do the outside box, because what that'll do is allow me to specify who's basically a front door. So let's call this room 1 air. Okay, let's call this outside air. And this is going to just stay one by one by one. I don't need it to do anything else. And it doesn't need to overlap fires. It really doesn't need to do anything. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to remove these so that way it's fresh. And we want to share with this one here, I think. Actually, it doesn't need to share with anything, does it? No, it doesn't need to share with anything. So what this needs to do is share with the outside air. Okay? So I think what that will do now is loop through the array, see that there's an error on this one. And since this outside one doesn't lose air at all, it will always have air. Here's a problem though. It's based on an amount, so a smaller room will never be greater than this amount, because originally I was doing it on percentage and then I changed it to volume. So what I need to do is break this into a percentage. Alright, so shoot. Alright. So let's get the max air in the room, and let's go ahead and get this air in the room and go if the, let's take the max air, yeah, and divide it by the current air. And so what does that give me? Max air divided by the current air. So let's say this is 100. Let's say that's 50. Right? Oops. That's 2. That's not what I want. I want the other way around. Dope. That's what I want. Current air divided by the max air. There we go. Alright. Current air divided by the max air will give me 0.5 in my test theory here. And then, is this greater than the room air? Same thing here. If it's greater than that, there we go. So now it's not volume based, it's percentage based. Okay. And this still, I still want this to minus, and I still want this to plus. Peace. That should be good. Alright, so this will go, is this half greater than that half? If it is, then go ahead and do this math. Okay. Alright, so this air should run out. Outside air is not running out. Inside air just did. Let's open the door. Fire comes back on, and the inside air starts building again. There we go. And then it peaks. Oh, the door's open. Yeah, so it should stay peaked. Now let's go ahead and close the door again, and it should run out of air. Yep, there we go. Alright, so the base is working and now gets air from the outside, which is pretty cool. There we go. So now the fire gets air from the outside. Awesome. Okay, part 1 of that idea is done. Now let's go ahead and bring this sucker over here, and let's call this room 2 air. And you, room 2 air, you will be linked to room 1 air. And door, you will be linked to this one. And then this, I'm just going to put it in here so to make sure it scales in the right place. Yeah, that should be good. Okay. So it's back to 1. All right. Yeah, that's all good. Okay, so now, theoretically, this might be done. I don't know. Let's see here. These both should run out of air. Yes, they're both out of air. Let's open this sucker. inside, and it has air again. Let's close the door. Now it should run out of air again. It's going. Okay, out of air. Now let's open this door. See, it popped back up. So this is the problem. That's not good physics there. Yeah. So that I need to solve that issue. As I open this door. Oh, weird. It didn't do it this time. Because the percentage is different. Interesting. Ooh, okay. Well, that's confusing. What I should do is greater or equal. Maybe that makes the difference here. So let's go ahead and try that. This time, we're just going to head and move you in here so we don't have to wait twice. There we go. Open this door. And that shouldn't get air like that. Alright, so what am I doing that's causing it to get air? Alright, so the door opens and it sweeps through here and it goes to air fill up. Fill with air. Fill with air. That's true. Max air room is less than that is true. Go through the loop. Get room air amount. So it's adding to it, which is fine. However, it doesn't make sense, because if these are equal or similar, let's see, they should be equal at this point. So it shouldn't be equal. It should be greater than. That's why I did that originally. Where is it getting the sudden 400 additional air? It must have something to do with the door open status. I must have done something else. Door open, it does that. That's just animation. That's just interface. That just opens and closes the door. And here's the actions for the door open and closed. Backdraft checks. Oh, you know what? It's auto doing that. I shouldn't auto do it, is what's going on, I think. Room air. So let's go ahead here. It needs to check and see if the max needs to check this here. Has this been resolved? Yeah, so I need to take this. We'll check this again. Let's start with one piece at a time. Alright, so the first thing it's going to do is the max room air divided by half greater than the room air amount? Which basically is checking to see if this has half the air or not. If it does, then go ahead and execute this. are out. Open the door. So it's getting this burst here of air, getting 400 almost instantly, which I don't understand how it's doing that. It must be missing something obvious here. Maybe it's because I have air fill up true. And it's less than that. And it goes through here. Let's change this back to the greater then, rather than greater or equal. Something's wrong here, I think. I'm doing the math wrong. Alright, let's check this out. There we go. Look, it didn't disperse. Awesome. What happens if I open this door now? They both filled back up with air. However, they didn't reignite. Okay, so part of the answer's there. So it's checking this, fill with air. It does all that. You know what? I think because it's not checking it again. I think that's what's going on. It's only checking it when the door opens, when it really should be checking when the air has a certain amount or not. So really, the door opened should only cast the air fill up check here. And the backdraft should be called on its own scale here. So let's see what happens here. I think it might be something like that. Yes? Let's try that. Both of you extinguish. We open the door. Nothing happens because they're equal. Let's open this door. And they both reignite. Oh, baby. I think we got that now. Alright, let's try a different test. Let's let these extinguish. Okay. Let's open this door. And I guess let's open this door. It should work. Yep. Okay. And one more other test here. Let's close it again. That should extinguish. Oh yeah, it's going. Okay. Good. And then let's close this one. This should go down. Good, good, good. Now let's open this door and give it some air. Let it get back up. Okay. Now let's go over here while it has some air and open this. Yes. Awesome. So they don't have to be fully. They will run out together. Right? Uh-oh. Too bad. Room 2 is not... Room 2's not losing air anymore. Why is that? Well, it was close. Shoot. Because the door's open? Yeah. So I got it going in one direction now. The air is traveling in one direction now. But it doesn't travel the other direction. So what needs to happen is that it needs to know that even though this door is open, this room has no air. So it should start pouring air from room 2 into room 1, and they should be extinguish each other. Oof. Now where's the where do I do the logic on that one? That one's tougher. Okay. So what needs to happen is, even though the door is already open, it doesn't need to call this. Right now it's calling the air fill up when the door's open. Alright, so it calls the air fill up. It checks that. And this is happening if this is greater, but in this case it is not. If it is not greater, then I think it needs to do the opposite. Right? Was that right? It only casts the air fill up when it's there. Then it stops. I guess I could have the air fill up going all the time. Maybe that's necessary. I really didn't want that to be a condition. I really wanted it to only loop through the process when it needed to. But that may be a necessary condition for the air boxes. That fill with air might need to run all the time. That way it constantly runs this check. I guess I could have it run on an event tick. Let's do an experiment here. Let's go ahead and break this. It should always be on air fill up, so this shouldn't matter anymore. And we'll move this around so that way it doesn't care. I'm not sure what I had that in there for, but that way it's always checking the air pressure. Let's make sure that it works by default first of all. It's not working right. They're constantly getting air. So I need to change something in my base code here. So I have that checking when it's completed. Let's turn that off. Interesting. One of them, that room went down. That room had gone up temporarily. Ooh. They like went back and forth. They're balancing each other. Fascinating. And now they're both down. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's good. They're both down. Oh, now they're both up. And they're both down. Somehow they're giving each other air. Something to do with the math in there. Interesting. Well, I got to get that right. Alright, well, let's go ahead and come back to this idea here. Let's open the door. And they should balance each other out again. Look at these numbers. It's going crazy. That doesn't even make sense. It's getting 2 numbers for each one. I've created some sort of crazy loop here. Alright, well I think I need to put a little more consideration into this, but the general concept's working. I'll have to do a part 2 and work on the internal air situation. But alright, for now it's dinner time. I gotta take a break or the wife will be upset. Where the heck are you? I'm programming fire. Alright, I'll be back in about an hour.